Hey everybody, it's Trigger Bar Philosopher. Welcome back out to the range. Today we're going to be testing two 380 ACP rounds to see if we can get reliable expansion. It's the Underwood standard pressure versus the Underwood plus P pressure with the XTP bullet. Should be a good time. Let's get to shooting. All right, so let's get to going into this episode because I'm pretty excited for this one. So we've kind of started doing a little bit of a new test series within our series of testing on 380 ACP, but don't worry, you don't have to go back and watch all the other ones. This one I think is going to be a good one. So what we've been doing is we've been testing a whole bunch of jacketed hollow point rounds to see which perform the best out of the Bodyguard 2.0. I really like the Bodyguard 2.0. It's a great ergonomic pistol. Yes, I have mine cut for an optic, but you don't have to do that. You can just use it as you would from the factory as a great pocket pistol. It shoots well, trigger is awesome, sights are great. It's just an all-around good gun. But not every round of ammunition works well with it. So we've been testing what is going to work well out of this 2.75-inch barrel, and are we going to get reliable expansion? So I've done a whole series on that, and one of the better performers has been the Underwood XTP. Now we've tested quite a few rounds of other loadings with the XTP, but we don't get reliable expansion. And even in my favorite standard pressure Underwood loading of the 90 grain XTP bullet, I've seen a time or two that it doesn't expand. So that begs the question is, how often are we going to get expansion when we shoot this bullet? So that's what we're going to put to the test today. And then we're also going to be doing a little bit of a test of how much does plus P make a difference? Now, you may be asking if you follow the series, Trigger Bar, you already did that video. Well, but I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to shoot 6 rounds of each of these, the standard pressure and the regular pressure, and see, do we get regular expansion? Now, I just did a video on this where I tested some Hornady loadings. I tested their Hornady Critical Defense versus their American Gunner XTP loading. We saw the XTP loading only expanded 2 out of the 6 times versus the Critical Defense expanded 6 out of 6 times. Now, the issue with the Critical Defense is it expands a little bit wide and can sometimes not get deep enough penetration. I like the XTP bullet because it doesn't expand as wide and generally gets a little bit better penetration, but we're going to put that to the test today. Now, the test setup that we have today is slightly different than I've been using in the series, but is consistent with these 6 rounds at a time that I'm shooting. I'm not going to include the medium density fiberboard. I usually put a 1/4 inch of medium density fiberboard, like what Gun Sam does, into my test setup. Now, that's awesome because it sees if we get tumbling after we get a little bit of penetration. And I think that's a great test. And then also with that medium density fiberboard, it generally makes the clear ballistic gel penetration depth about equivalent to the organic gel penetration depth. So we won't have that in there today. So I want you to keep in mind when you look at the results of this with the clear ballistic gel, when we get 10 inches, we might have gotten 9 inches in organic gelatin. When we get 13 inches, we might have gotten 12 or 11.5 inches in the organic gel. So clear ballistic gel tends to exaggerate penetration and also expand the bullets. So that's something to keep in mind and to take note of as we do this test. But I'm looking for something that expands reliably in this clear ballistic test setup because I think that's a little bit higher of a bar of whether we get expansion or not. All right, so that's the test setup. We're going to be testing these 2 rounds. I'm super excited for this. We're going to do the test in rapid fashion, 6 shots at a time. Sometimes my slow motion camera picks up all 6 shots. Sometimes it doesn't. So we'll see how that goes. And then we'll get some velocity readings and see how if there's the accuracy differences between the plus P and the standard pressure or anything. Now, but before we get too far into it, I know some of you have already put comments into the channel below or into the comment section below. Trigger Bar, you can't shoot 380 ACP plus P out of the Bodyguard 2.0. The Smith & Wesson manual says you can't do it. Okay, I understand that. I have read it. I am aware of that. If that bothers you to an extreme point where you can't watch this video, please just turn it off and stop now. Okay, thank you. For the rest of you who are going to continue watching. Now, you may think some of you who have left the channel may have thought, well, this is not very professional to show plus P. Let me explain. There is no definition of plus P for 380 ACP. SAMI, which is an international standards body which approves ammunition. Some ammunition can be loaded and is not SAMI, doesn't have a standard for what the standard loading is. An example of that is 8.6 Blackout today, as we're speaking, does not have a SAMI specification for it. Well, guess what else doesn't? 380 ACP plus P. 9mm plus P, 38 Special plus P, 45 ACP plus P, all have standards for what that means. That way, when a gun company says, can you shoot this ammo or not, they know they can test it and they can see what the pressure is going to be and whether or not their gun can meet that pressure tolerance. But if there's no standard, that means Underwood could load it to one pressure, Buffalo Bore could load it to another pressure, and Bubba's Pissin' Hot Reloads, poor Bubba, could load it to like 4 times the pressure of all of those, and then when you shoot it out of your gun, you blow it up. So if you're Smith & Wesson, why would you say that you can shoot this out of your gun? You're not going to, right? So, but folks like Underwood, folks like Buffalo Bore have said that these rounds are safe in semi-automatic pistols. There are some 380 ACP guns, some manufacturers that don't specify you can't shoot it, like Beretta, for example. The Cheetah doesn't specify that, and there's a few others that are out there. But in general, many manufacturers are going to say don't shoot it in their gun. All right, so that's our little bit of our disclaimer as we get going. Don't freak out if you're saying I'm shooting plus P. It's not going to blow your gun up, generally speaking, although one guy in the last comment said his guy rod got messed up the first time he shot plus P. It generally doesn't happen. I've shot quite a bit of plus P out of this, and the Bodyguard performs just fine with it. It's just going to wear out the components, and this is one reason why I carry a different Bodyguard that doesn't get as much plus P time on it. All right, well, that said, why don't we go down? Let's get to shooting. First up, we have the Underwood loaded XTP projectile, 90 grains. We're going to fire it out of our Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0 into our 2 layers of denim, 2 layers of t-shirt, then a whole bunch of clear ballistic gel after that. We will shoot 6 shots. Hopefully we capture it with the slow motion cameras. And the last velocity on there was 940. I've seen some of these get as high as 975. So we'll go down, check out what the results were. But the last shot got 940 feet per second. Okay, now one of the downsides of shooting 6 shots into the ballistic gelatin is it's really hard to tell what's going on. You can't see really a single one of them at this point very well at all. And then combined with the fact is I'm going to flip this block around and then we're going to shoot 6 more. So in the second, you're really not going to see much. Okay, well, after some diagnosis and review, I think we had 1 expand and we had 2 go all the way through this second gel block. But so we had 2 escape out of the back of the gel. Had 1 get to around the one that expanded and did well, got almost out to 16 inches with the other gel block in front of it. Remember, I have the 2 inches of gel in front of it. Yeah, and then the rest of them just did a bunch of tumbling, didn't expand. Let's take a look at the projectiles, see what we have going on here. So I was only able to capture 4 out of the 6, but I would put our rate at 1 out of 6, which is on par with what the American gunner did. So for me at the moment, I'm kind of thinking, well, even if we get a little bit of velocity with the Underwood, that standard pressure is just not cutting it as much as I thought. And I have other tests where it works fine. I'm not sure if they have slowed these down. I'm a little suspicious they have, because in previous tests, we were getting 975, 1,000 feet per second out of the standard pressure, and now we're getting below 950. That's no good. Okay, now we look at the few projectiles that we have here. Remember, we captured 4, 2 went out the back that really didn't do much even in the gel. They just were pretty much straight shots. This one is the one that expanded, and that's very nice expansion. What I typically get about 0.44, 0.45 expansion with that XTP bullet. That's great. And then the rest of these, the mouths were just starting to open, and that allowed them to do some tumbling and do some other damage. The damage looks very similar to what you would get with the Extreme Defender external hollow point bullet. So I'd put them on par with that. Maybe just a touch more penetration with it. It is interesting that some of these did zip all the way through. I generally don't have that when I put the medium density fiberboard in, because that causes any that have not expanded to start tumbling. Those other ones just didn't tumble, so they kept zipping. All right, let's move to the Plus P. All right, well, now we have the 90 grain Plus P XTP loaded, again, just a little bit hotter. They claim 1,200 feet per second. They claim 1025. My guess is I should get around 1050. That's what I've seen in the past with these Plus P versions. That's what we kind of got with Buffalo Boar. So that's what the target should be. Again, I'll only probably pick up the last one. I'm going to shoot these 6 in pretty rapid fire so that I have a chance of picking it up on my slow motion camera. The slow motion camera only takes about 5 or 6 seconds of video. So I'm going to try to shoot it in rapid session and get all of these shots on slow motion. All right, well, here we go. Starting the camera. All right. And the last one that we picked up on the velocity with the chronograph was 1074. So this is more like 125 feet per second more for that XTP. So this will be a good test to see how much expansion we got, how reliable the expansion is when we get that velocity up higher. Okay, so again, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to see a whole lot, because this block has 12 wound tracks in it. And remember, the reason I don't do this very often is because it just basically, this gel block is ruined now. I'll get a quarter of a gel block out of this, and maybe an eighth of a gel block out of this. It's just flushing down the toilet, some investment. But it's for a good test, and so let's just get we'll pull this off and we'll start to see a little bit better what actually happened. Dang, I don't like it when my gel falls on the ground because it gets all dirty, even those other blocks. But none of the shots made it into the second gel. Let's make sure I count all of them. The ones that were stopped in the gel block, again, we go out to that 2 inches before the gel hit, and we have ones that are the shortest one, the one that expanded the most, is around a foot, and the one that expanded the least, and it expanded the most. The one that expanded the most got out to around, the least got out to around 16 inches. That's the one that we have out at the farthest. Let's start digging out these projectiles though. Take a look at these projectiles. 3 of them out of the 6 expanded just perfectly, did exactly what you would hope and expect to have happen with them. And then one of them just kind of sort of expanded and then started tumbling, but its wound track was pretty gnarly. Ironically, this is the one that went the furthest. So let's just take a quick look at the expansion on these. Very similar to that first one that we had, 0.47 with the standard pressure, 0.46, 0.45. That's about what the XTPs, when they're done right, they get out to about 45 cal. That's about what you're hoping for. So yeah, so 4 out of 6, I think we can claim for this. That doesn't beat the Hornady. The Hornady, in terms of reliable expansion, got 6 out of 6, which is just so odd because when I was testing one at a time, the Hornady didn't expand and the XTPs expanded more, but we only got 1 out of 6 expanding with the standard pressure and 4 out of 6 with the Plus P. I'll admit I'm a little disappointed with all of this, but I would have expected all of these to expand. This Plus P pressure is probably the one to go with because you get some good expansion. I know many of you in the comments are worried about getting enough penetration. The ones that expanded got over that foot mark, some out to 16 inches, And then some got even further when they didn't expand. So you're getting the kind of stuff that you want if you're after that. Okay, I have the Garmin 0C1 out. We are going to shoot 6 shots. We are also simultaneously doing 2 things at once, Trigger Bar, dangerous thing. I know that. We're doing 2 things at once. We're going to shoot at a little over 10 yards into our target, see how well we can shoot accuracy-wise with the standard pressure versus the plus P pressure. And we're going to get a reading off of the Garmin. We have to be a little bit further than I normally like to be back for accuracy testing, but hey, this, you know, we're doing a whole bunch of stuff different in these videos, so we got to do is shake it up a little bit here too. All right, so we'll shoot the 5 shots, see what kind of readings we get. Now, interesting, I'm just kind of watching it as we're doing it. We got a lot better results in that 5 than, I don't know. I only checked the last one that was happening there, but let's just take a look at the session summary. We got a min of 954, an average of 973. That's about what I'm normally seeing this Underwood at, and a max of 1,000. My guess is we've probably got to get up to that reliability up to 1,000. I thought we could get to 950 and get reliable expansion, but I'm guessing we have to get to 1,000 feet per second with it to get some sort of reliable, more than 1 out of 2 out of type situation. All right, well, let's see what we're getting out of, and again, we are shooting, this is measuring muzzle, the other was measuring a little bit off the muzzle. No chronographs ever agree with one another, Paul Harrell, blah, blah, blah. All right, so let's now do the standard pressure. But first, I forgot we got to go check the target. Okay, at 10 yards, we're not getting any flyers, but that's good to know. At 10 yards, this is standard pressure. I'll shoot the next group over here, but that's great. That's totally fine accuracy. I've always shot these XTP bullets pretty well. See how I do with the standard with the plus P pressure, which does rock the gun just a little bit more. Dead trigger. Did not, it could have been me. I've done that before where I don't reset the trigger properly. So definitely could have been me. Let's keep going. Whew. Yeah, that should be it. Let's first do our session summary, then we'll go check it out. So for a min, we got 1078, an average of 1092, a max of 1109. Again, average of 1092. That's higher than I was expecting. And you saw that with a little bit of my flinching going on. Standard deviation of 11.7, an average kinetic energy of 238. That's really close and on par with what that Buffalo Bore plus P was that we did recently. All right, let's go down and see what we did on the target. You'll definitely see that my groups opened up. That's a little disappointing for me in my shooting. Here's our result. Yeah, that was the one. That surprised me and that surprised me. The result was poor trigger control and poor performance on my behalf, but you can see that, you know, the ammunition's not going in sideways. It's handling out of the Bodyguard 2.0, but maybe that's something to consider is when you can't handle the plus P, like you can handle the standard pressure, because that appears to be true for me. Okay, well, today we had a great time testing our standard pressure Underwood XTP versus our plus P pressure Underwood XTP bullet. I thought, I was a little surprised with the results. You know, I am not going to lie, I thought that my XTP bullet was my top performer, but at this point, that is not. Maybe the Underwood plus P is my top one, but then I think you have to go into consideration that the Buffalo Bore is right there with it. I think that you also have, although, yeah, these bullets, when they expanded, went a little bit further, but they're in the same realm. I think you have to look at that Hornady critical duty. It's getting reliable expansion, but just not as much penetration. And then, you know, we're going back to some of the other things that seem to be doing it pretty well. Our Federal Hydroshock Deep and our Federal HST rounds, I'll probably do a similar test with those in an upcoming video. I go back to where I am shifting to. After all of this testing, I am shifting more and more to carrying around that expands pretty reliably, either this Plus P XTP or that Hornady Critical Defense, and then carrying around that doesn't rely on expansion, either your fluted rounds or just probably Winchester White Box, because those two seem to do about the same amount of damage in the gel. So let me know what you all think in the comments below. Hope this was informational. It certainly was to me, and I'll probably be making decisions based off this. Let me know in the comments below. Hope everyone has a great week. Let's get shooting.
From pistols to rifles, we'll take on the best. If you need your weapon, put them to the test. With revolvers and shotguns, we'll break it all down. The Second Amendment protects from the crown.